Good morning. My name is Dwayne Van Lanker. I host the Facebook page Intactivist with Compassion for Newborn Babies. And this conversation isn't about blame. It's about honesty. It's about what happens after a choice is made that can't be undone. Today, I'm sitting with Brooke Kelly, who did what millions of parents were told was normal, harmless, and even loving. She trusted the system. She signed the form, and years later, she realized that something didn't sit right with her. This interview isn't to scare parents. It's here to slow them down. Regret doesn't mean you're a bad parent. It means you woke up. If one woman watching this pauses before making the choice about circumcising her child, then this hour mattered. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. Brooke, speak from where you are now, not from where you think you're supposed to be.
Okay. And thank you. And thank you for having me on. Um, yeah, I am going to speak exactly from where I am and put out there that this is coming from a very ignorant place. And I want to be I want to be honest because it is very ignorant, the place that I'm coming from. So I just want to I need to acknowledge that. I need to acknowledge that for myself, you, and whoever is going to listen. Um, Honestly, I have not really thought about now. I have a son who is 15, and up until recently, hearing about you and what you're passionate about, circumcision, right? And the knowledge and spreading of that knowledge of what is happening, I didn't think about it. I really didn't until again hearing what you're so passionate about and then sort of opening my ears to, oh, again, very ignorant. Oh, hold on, this is an issue. Like, this is something that we should actually be paying attention to. Um, and then, of course, if I may, listening to your story
Mhm. Of
was
course.
very, yeah, was very raw, authentic, eye-opening, heart-wrenching. Um, and that made me also go, just so so because this is again how ignorant I was, and I'm sure not everyone is like me. So I feel like I'm probably maybe at the bottom of ignorance. Um, I went and looked at a video of, well, what exactly is, I mean, you hear what takes place, but to see it, so I watched a video to see what actually happens. And that was pretty, I was just like, oh my God, like, okay, so if that makes sense.
Yes, and it's ironic too. I mean, if parents would just do what you did before making the decision and watch that video, I don't think that a lot of parents wouldn't do that. When they hear the screaming, when the knives come out, when the clamp comes out, and part of their baby is removed,
Yeah,
yeah, it changes perspective when you actually see it.
absolutely. And
Mhm.
even just the reasoning, which you had said also in the video, but this is, I mean, people know this part, I believe, for cleanliness or hygiene. If you actually think about it, and like you had said, and, just a little bit of the investigation that I've been doing, clearly that is, um, foreskin is supposed to protect. And
Mhm.
so it's so, it doesn't make sense. It's
Yeah.
such a, yeah,
Yeah. Girls have lots of folds. We don't go cutting their parts off.
right,
Right. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have some questions.
Okay.
And the first one is about trust. So before you were a mom, what did you believe circumcision was?
Um, just, I mean, knowing that the foreskin is cut off, and again, for cleanliness,
Mhm.
and it's just done. Like that's how I perceived it, that's just what happens. And now, um, I have some friends from different countries. One I would say from Ireland, and they don't practice or as much. I'm not there, but they don't
Mhm.
practice that like here. So I just find that interesting because that's not a practice there. So it just doesn't get done. It's a practice here.
Yeah.
And so it just gets done. It's just something that was part of, I'm, yeah. So that's why I knew about it. I'll stop.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned Ireland because one of the intactivists that did joins the Bloodstained Men on tour he comes from Ireland
Okay.
to go on tour with us to do educational street outreach. And his words were if you asked for a circumcision in Ireland, they would call the Child Protective Services.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
As probably as it should be, but yeah.
yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So who did you trust the most when the decision was presented? So the doctor or nurse came to you with the clipboard and the consent paper. Who did you trust the most?
Yeah. My doctor.
Okay.
I mean, and it's funny because it's almost, you're not asked per se.
Mm,
It's sort of just like, this is what happens. This is what we're doing. This is what goes on. Now, again, this is 16 years ago.
hmm
Uh, well,
How
going
many,
on
do you remember
well,
how many times you were asked, by the way?
once.
Just once. Okay.
And it wasn't even a topic of conversation, meaning this is what's going to happen. This is how it happens. Is this something that you want to happen? Again, it literally was just like, no, this is what happens. It's part of the process, you
Okay.
know. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Here's a pillow. Would you like a cup of tea? And would you like your son circumcised?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
What words were used by that doctor to make you feel safe or make it feel safe or routine? You
I
might
guess
want
I can't remember the words per se,
to.
but it was just the way that it was almost expected,
Mm,
that it wasn't something that most people don't do, if that makes sense. Like it was just like, yeah, sure, this is what we do here. You had a boy. So, um, and of course, too, at that moment, and it depends on what kind of birth you had and whatnot, but I did have a C-section, so I had to have drugs, um, because, they cut me open in order to get my son out. But, even in that mindset, like even in the mindset of just having birth, whether you have drugs or not, you just had a baby. Like I'm just saying you're not really.
Wait, let me clarify something now. This is important. You had a C-section, obviously on a lot of pharmaceutical help and painkillers and whatever else was injected in you at the time. Was this after your birth, while you were still under the effects of these drugs that they asked you if you wanted your son amputated or not?
Yes. What after? No. Let me see, because it was a while ago. But
Yeah, go
no,
ahead. Take your time.
well, because I didn't know if it was a boy or girl. It was a surprise. So I left it as I didn't find out.
Mhm.
So this was so going into it, knowing if it was going to be a boy, right, that this was going to happen. But then when when he was pulled out and he was a boy, then it was like, okay, this is going to happen. Does that make sense? And
Yes.
honestly, I'm pretty sure at this point, then it was just now my husband at the time, his father, was that like the check because it was a boy.
Okay. Okay. So,
But
do
prior
you-
to going into it, yes, it was, if it's a boy, this is what
uh,
happens.
okay. So
Yes,
the decision was made before the birth. This
yes.
is what as this is what is done. All right. So do you remember? So do you remember the exact moment you consented, and was there a hesitation in your body, even though your mind said yes?
I'm going to be fully honest. No,
Hmm.
there wasn't a hesitation. And I can't help but just because of the type of person I am and the things that I'm very interested in. And maybe it's a cop out, maybe it's an excuse. But like that societal programming. So again, it really was just, well, in Ireland, they don't do that, but in the United States, we do. And so it was just so, to me, just expected. It was something that gets done, happened to my husband. He didn't seem to have any qualms about it or say, like, no, we
Mhm.
really need to think about this or talk about this. And me being the female and not a male, so not having any idea what this means because I don't have a penis. I don't know the difference per se between with uncircumcised or circumcised. And I've never seen, sorry, I'm just saying, right? I'm trying to be very, very honest, very clear. So because I have no experience with the penis and circumcision and non-circumcision
See,
penises,
yeah.
I I didn't think about it. Like I was just, no, this is what
So
we do.
you've never experienced an intact man. Is that what I'm gathering? Okay. So, and it's interestingly enough where when the father is circumcised and they ask the father, that you said that you don't have a penis and you don't know the difference between a foreskin and not having a foreskin. Neither does he.
Right,
So it's like asking a person that was blind at birth to describe the color blue. That
right,
it's impossible. So it's impossible for a cut man to describe what he's missing. He doesn't know what he's missing.
right,
The only reason, and I only know like, cognitively about, what I've read about the foreskin and its functions and how important it is in immunological and physiological and even in intercourse that is actually it's a mechanical lubrication that I can never contribute to. So it's
right,
interesting how women talk about vaginal dryness in later years. Well, because they're having sex with the man with the sex organs been modified. It's not natural. Okay,
right.
so getting back. Okay.
Okay. All right. But does that make sense? Like I know, but again, that's why
Uh-huh.
I'm coming here fully trying to expose myself as I probably people will count how many times I say ignorant, but
Yeah.
because that's really where I was coming from. And I need to be very honest and clear with that. And I don't want it to be used as an excuse, right?
Mhm.
And at the same time, it's like that's really where I was. I was, it wasn't like I was, 21 or I was 27. Not 16 or, I was 27, educated, I know that that may or may not mean anything. I'm just trying to explain, like, it wasn't like I just got pregnant and, oh, this is happening. And, this is just coming from, planning, um, because my son was planned, eating properly. Oh wait, my son, I was 32. Sorry. My
Oh,
my daughter, I was 27. I apologize. I was
uh,
thinking of first birth. Ooh. Um, 31 because it was 4 years apart. So yeah, so 31, it wasn't, and it was just like, oh no, this is what happens. It's not even something that I was like considering, like, oh, you say, and again, oh, you say no, you can say no to this. Like, I know that sounds, but
yep. Well, because it's so prevalent in our society, and
right.
and it's speaking on those lines, and it's like, well, people say, well, look at the research. Well, all the research, any research that is done, the only research that is done is funded. Research doesn't happen unless it's funded. And of course, any research that does happen is going to support the cutting of little boys because we live in a genital cutting culture. So they have to reaffirm why this is quote unquote, why this is a good thing. So the moment I guess since you already decided the decision was already made beforehand that if it was a boy, he was going to be circumcised. So what what did no one ask you about circumcision that might have swayed your decision about whether you would have gone through with the surgery?
I don't even know, honestly, if it was what no one would ask me. I think that what I wish I had done, or maybe the doctor sat with me, but again, it's like then I'm blaming someone else when it should have been my responsibility to look into that and say, well, what exactly is this? Meaning, I know what it was, but what exactly is going to happen? Let me look up a video and see. And I didn't do that. And could the medical professionals have sat with me and said, this is what would happen if we circumcise your son, to like actually sit and talk a little bit about, like, it's funny, I'm just saying that I was just at a doctor's appointment right now and we were talking about some medication, and she sat and said, this is what would happen, here's the side effects that, and like went through the whole thing, right? And just because I knew this was about, our conversation was about to take place, I was thinking, I'm like that didn't happen. Do you understand? Like the medical professional
Yes.
did not sit with me and say, this is what will happen, and this is how it happens, and this is what it looks like. At least mine didn't. I don't know. Maybe other people, and maybe since you are in this realm more than I am and hear more stories, maybe professional medical professionals sit with people and actually do this. I'm not sure, but for me, no, that didn't happen. And then again, like I said, well, as a mother, it was my responsibility as well. So I don't want to just put the blame, but do I wish that happened? Yeah, I do. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I do. Especially, when you're pregnant and you are going through life and there's 100, I already did have a child, and, I am a professional career, and you just, and it was going to be a C-section because I have a heart condition. So, kind of managing that as well. Just like,
Your story is not unique among
okay,
parents, that the doctors and nurses do not sit
okay,
down and talk about the negatives of what could happen, including death. Boys die every year, 100. The claim number is 100 a year. So circumcision is never on the death certificate. What's on there is that the exquination is that the child bled to death, or hemorrhage, or their lung collapsed, or another complication of infection. Circumcision is never on the death certificate. So it's hard to get any numbers. And it's also very hard to get any numbers because circumcision is the only unregulated surgery in the United States. So they're not going to, and really they're not going to cut into their own bottom line by explaining to you that all the bad things that could happen, or take their time to do it. Yeah.
yeah.
So your story was not unique in
Okay.
that there was no conversation beforehand of not only the complications that can happen, the lifelong implications of what we're doing. That's never mentioned. Okay, so and you might have already answered this, but when did you first realize that circumcision was not something, was circumcision something you could have said no to? And this is not normal. And it only happens in the United States. When did you first come to that?
Gosh, honestly, I know this again, the ignorance. But really just with you. Um,
Okay.
I mean, I have to be honest, like I'm sure since when the doctor's sitting there prior, because if it was going to be a boy or girl, and was like, all right, you have to sign these papers. Like if you're doing that, then that means you're giving consent. There has to be, yes, I'm giving consent, or no, I'm not giving consent. So I had to realize that no was an option,
Mm.
right?
Well,
Um,
go ahead.
I'm, and then again, just in my mind, it was this is what happens. This is what we do. Everybody does
Right.
this. This is I've
Well, it's
never been in.
interesting you talk about signing the consent form because once the liability is taken off of the doctors and hospitals when the parent signs the consent form because they are consenting to the surgery. So even complications that come with that is actually liability to the parent because the parents allowed it to happen. It's a they do that on purpose. So, you know, and so you've only realized this recently. Well, I've only realized this recently. I didn't realize it until I was 55 years old. I've never seen another man's penis. How would I know what another man's penis looks like? You know, pornography, well, an erect penis, the foreskin's retracted. So even if the man was intact, how would I know?
Right.
But come to find out now, talking with with other intactivists. If people are out there that don't know, and we call ourselves intactivists. So intact, an intact man, and an activist. So we're intactivists.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't know. I didn't know. I've never. And then now speaking to other intactivists, I realize how severe my injuries really are, and they are physically. My injuries are severe, and emotionally and psychologically even worse. Okay, so unspoken. So what's the hardest part of knowing your son doesn't know?
Okay, what you just said, right? So how do I know that the extent to what happened to you didn't happen to him? I have no way of knowing that. We don't talk about it. And just off video conversations that we had is that I do want to sit and have a conversation with him. And yet, again, completely opening myself here up, I have no idea how to even do that. Because it's like I have to, not have to, I want to. First allow him to know, right? So he knows, because like you said, you didn't know about circumcision or non-circumcision because you didn't see another male's penis. Well, I don't think my son has either. So I want him to even know that there is a difference and how that does it impact him now? I'm not sure, right? And how it's going to impact the future and apologize. And then if he has a child, a son, then he has every right to say no. And hopefully with the education from what I'm learning from you, I pass on to him that he is then would make the decision to not circumcise.
Okay, so I have some more questions, but actually, I think we've opened up what we really came here about, and how do you as a regret mom approach your son about this? So I've come up with a few things that I think might help. But I think, okay, let me ask you this question. Does he know that he's circumcised?
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I've never said to him, you have a circumcised penis.
Right. So he may
You
not
know,
know.
yeah, I don't know. And I have, yeah, right. I don't know.
And like I said, coming back to me, it's like in my ignorance, I didn't know until I was 55 years old. How would I know? Okay,
Right.
that's what it always been. Um, so I think the first thing is not to blame yourself and to be grounded. And this goes to all women out there, no matter what. The worst possible thing you can say to a man is, we need to have a talk. Please don't ever do that. Don't ever do that. And don't do that in this case. So, so it's choosing a calm, non-emotional moment. And then I think if you approach it to where just ask him, it's like, do you have a time? Do you have a few minutes? Can we, you know, I'd like to talk to you about something. That's okay. What? Oh, and I wrote something that was great. Where did I put it? I don't know. So if you approach it that I need your help. So talking to your son, I need your help. I uh, I'd like to talk to you about something. And then that completely shifts his demeanor, and it's like, oh, I'm going to help mom. So now we've opened up the conversation. Now we've opened up the conversation where he's willing and eager to be in that conversation because he gets to help mom.
Yeah.
That's something I thought about this morning, actually. Let's see. There's something about your body I should have told you earlier, and I can send you this later. You didn't do anything. There was nothing wrong with you, and I want to be honest and give you choice going forward. And I think this is super important, and I want you to talk to me about this because circumcision was the removal of his choice. He didn't have a choice for a lifelong implications of this amputation. So I want I want to be honest and give you the choice going forward. And tell me what you think about that. Expand on that.
No, I think right there is so important because you're absolutely right. Like taking away his choice. He didn't get a choice. And now he's, stuck, if you will, but because of my choice. And so, and even, well, I think it's also really powerful to open up that conversation the way that you had with him having a choice to talk to me and when.
Mhm.
Um, and then allowing him to know that he will have a choice for his own son if he happens to have children. Just saying.
Oh, I like
Um,
that.
yeah, yeah. So it's one of those like when the cycle breakers. So he can be a cycle breaker for our family.
That's wonderful. I love the way how you're looking forward to the future and what your conversation with your son can really imply, and that means saving a child in the future. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Um, when you were a baby, a medical procedure called circumcision was done. Part of your foreskin was amputated. I consented and I didn't understand the impact at the time. And I'm sorry. And how would you change that?
I mean, so far that sounds good, especially taking ownership and responsibility.
Mhm.
Um, Getting him to understand, so going a little in depth of what happened and how it has impacted and will impact him moving forward, especially when he becomes sexually active. And also, I don't know if he'll be able to answer me now or 5 years from now, but just, is there a way that I could repair the harm
Mm.
that
Okay,
has been?
well, I was actually going to speak about that, and this is only something where I wouldn't get into graphic detail or politics or activism or beat yourself up about it, but only if he asks for the information, because this he might need a minute to process this, or a month, or years to
Right.
process this before, and then and he's also, and it's like, even talking about his penis and sex to mom is like super weird, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially at the age. Yes,
Yes.
yes,
So that's super weird right there. But
yes.
I think if we can, if somehow, and if he does ask that we can let him know and we can introduce him to the fact that he can, quote unquote, you notice my air quotes, quote unquote, restore his foreskin. And I hate that term because we're not lizards. It's not going to grow back. However, he can gain some function and comfort is the biggest thing with a faux skin or a three skin. It's not a foreskin. So
Okay.
there's ways to stretch the remaining tissue that is there and cover and recover the glands of the penis to where, so the penis, when you amputate, well, we've talked, you've seen my other videos, so, but when you amputate the foreskin, the the head of the penis actually becomes keratinized, is the word that's used, and basically it's callousing over. And so the head of your penis is much more like your tongue. It's not an external epidermal layer. It's not supposed to be exposed to the air and abrasion. And the head of the penis is very much like your tongue. It should be soft and moist all the time. Um, so it keratinizes. I mean, think about if your tongue was like hanging out all the time, it would be dry and keratinized. And yeah, so if he would start when he's ready, the sooner he starts to quote unquote restore, that I hate that term, then the better for him. Uh,
Okay.
and like I said, I can send you what I have on this. It's kind of jumps. You have to weed through it and find that section. But what's the hard? What do you fear the most about telling him?
Ooh. His reaction, and I think also understanding the importance of what happened, and I guess even after, I feel like you said, it's going to take some processing, and it may be a couple of years before he really understands. But then how that how I may be perceived. Um, so yeah, I just want to give it the delicacy, but the honor that this conversation needs. And I appreciate you even saying, like, don't overgive, don't, but always asking him how much at this time,
Hmm.
information and that kind of thing. Because again, right, that's putting the choice back to my son.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So you made me think of that. Like, that was taken from him, but being able to give him choice, even within hearing the information, how we hear the information, how much at this moment, like that was, well, that was just a little, that was powerful. So thank you.
Okay. Yeah, because if he's open to it, if he did what I did and goes to the internet deep dive, and I want to prepare you that he may be angry about this,
Yeah.
and for you to be able to remain grounded and
Yeah.
just be there for him, because there
Yeah.
might be a lot of grief, might be a lot of anger. There's some really angry, there's some really angry cut men out there. Um,
Yeah.
and understandably so. How has this changed how you see motherhood?
Um, maybe not. It just adds on to the responsibility of motherhood, like in all aspects. Um, and two, just even not just motherhood, but as a person, being able to own up to something, even if it was through ignorance, but not making ignorance an excuse, if you will. But being able to step more into repairing harm, taking ownership and responsibility to something like this. It definitely makes me more more human. But that aspect where realizing you did something that you need to make amends for, and not just bypass it or ignore it once you have, especially when you have the information. Does that make sense?
Yes. Where do you feel grief right now in your body?
Well, I feel sadness in my heart, and my stomach definitely has butterflies. And yeah, I guess my body just kind of feels like heavy.
Mhm.
You're just like, because this is not something that can just be given back, even though, what you had just talked about, but that's not fully, you can't, like, it's an amputee, right? Like you just can't magically make it appear again.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely not, we're not lizards.
Right.
Um, if a pregnant mother is watching right now, what would you want her to know and to feel?
Mm. I would definitely say do the research, look at the video. It was like a medical video, so it was um tasteful, I suppose. I don't want anyone, because it even says, like, if you're disturbed with, I forget what it was called, like medical simulations, don't watch, but I highly recommend. It's
Mhm.
not just, I think, to read about it. I think seeing what happens, hearing stories, um, listening to interviews like yours, your stories, I would highly recommend do the get the education prior to making the choice.
And let me
And
ask you, can
don't
I ask you, you said you watched a medical circumcision video. Now, was it a prop or was it an actual?
prop. And it was
Oh,
an older prop, but because it wasn't like a baby lying there. So
okay.
then you can imagine if it was your baby lying there.
Yeah, it's a radically different experience when it's an actual human being being
I know.
subjected to circumcision. And it took me a long time before I could watch a circumcision video. A
Yeah,
real,
I don't think I would be able to. Because even this was like, you'll, if anyone goes and looks it up,
Mhm.
they'll know. They'll know. They don't, they'll
Yeah.
know.
Well,
Oh my God.
because you're missing you completely miss the blood and you completely miss the
Right.
screaming.
Screaming.
And it's
Right.
erratically, it's not the same kind of screaming. It's not like I'm hungry, mom, or I'm
Yeah.
scared. It's fighting for your life scream. It's
And the fact that that's your child. I mean, let's just be honest, right? Right out of, excuse me, right out of the womb, like that child is in your body for 9 months. Like the connection that you have with that child is something that cannot really be understood unless you have, you're able to be pregnant. Um, but the feeling like can't even be described with words. So immediately coming out of your body and then that happening, and if your mother, like if I saw or I was there, like I would swoop that baby, I would swoop him right off there, and not allow that to happen. I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? So I think that looking through that lens as well. So if you are looking at the videos or something, like just you have to imagine that is your child there that literally just came out of your body and you were protecting this child for 9 months. Like you were sharing everything with this child for 9 months. And then I don't think any of us would really allow that to happen.
which is totally interesting. And this comes right back to, what we think, what a mother should know before she allows this to happen is like a mother will research a car seat. She will research what food, what supplements he's going to give the baby, but doesn't research the pros and the cons of a permanent amputation.
Yes. Yeah. And so I would say, again, coming out as full on ignorance, right? I would say to a mother, a soon to be mother, um, you do have a choice. You're allowed to say no. Um, just because it seems that in our society, that's just something that happens and we don't question it. That's not the case. That's not true. And you do have a choice. So
Yeah.
even just starting from there, which I know sounds so ridiculously simple and maybe a cop out, I would I would go right there to a mother because I wish someone had said that to me. So I'm just going to say it to anyone who needs to hear that, even if some people are like, "Really, you don't think you have a choice?" Just just coming out here being completely authentic and honest.
No, I think
Um,
that's important. I think that's important because going back to what you said at the beginning, how you trusted the doctor.
yeah, of course.
And that's what it comes down to is that the doctor is present or nurse or whatever is presenting this as just something that's done. And it's not something that's done except in the United States and two religious organizations, so to speak, that do this. So it's America, it's the Jewish, and it's the Muslims or Islamics. There's the only ones that circumcise. Well, in parts of Africa, but that's normally in a rights of manhood. It's not. They're not cutting infants like we are. Um, so when you say it's a choice, it is a choice, and people don't realize it's a choice just because, as you said earlier, it's something that's just done.
Right. Yeah. And I think too at this time in this, and I won't go into this, I'll just say it, that a lot of us are now questioning way more than ever the medical profession, the medical field, I'll say. I'll
Mhm.
just at that.
Yep.
So, we're there where we don't just blindly follow. A lot of us blindly follow. So there's that too. So this is
Mhm.
like perfect timing for us to realize there's choice and to look into things, like really deeply look into things and why things are
Yeah.
happening. I'll leave that there.
Yeah, yeah. I'm following you. I
Yeah,
follow
yeah, yeah.
the it's interesting though, and it's like the only protected gender in the United States is the phenotype normative female. And it's really just the opinion of the doctor at the time to whether that newborn infant is a phenotype normative female. Because if the baby is not, then the baby's subject to cutting, which would be intersex children and all the males. And it's ironic, and it's not something we normally think about. But approximately 78 to 80% of all the men in the United States have undergone genital cutting. That means that 35 to 40% of the human beings you see every day have undergone genital cutting, mostly all men. But one out of every three people have been genitally modified with a knife. And that's something we don't realize as a society. I mean, if you're sitting in the movie theater and there's the person to your left of you and you're in the center and there's a person to the right of you, one of these three people has been cut.
No, it's crazy.
Yeah.
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 Something you don't realize, something we don't think about.
No, I didn't know that. Yeah. A
Yeah.
little startling. Yeah.
Um, what does repair look like for you now?
I mean, I don't know. Meaning it's having this conversation, opening this up for him. And that kind of, it's in his hands, but in our hands, but I guess we have to see, but repairing in and of itself is the education, is gaining the knowledge. Because now I feel like I can talk about this a little bit more than I would have been able to 5 years ago. But
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, I have to see, honestly.
You have to what? I'm sorry.
I have to see. I have to see how this goes.
Okay. What would it mean to you if your story prevented even one regret, mother?
Oh, that's that would, I mean, that would be amazing. That's what we hope these types of things generate. It's, you know, it's not for me to like feel better about myself that I'm doing this. It's about, I guess, maybe connecting to others and maybe people able to connect to my story. And and then right, a mother opening her eyes, and then she gets to be like the cycle breaker as well in her family, if that was a long line also of circumcision. So now, if she chooses not to, then that's that's this whole point of why we're doing this, right?
Yeah, that's wonderful. And you've actually inspired me. And something I thought about this morning before our interview was that you've inspired me to create another Facebook page and it's just going to be called Regret Moms. And I hope that you're a part of it. And just to be able to open this conversation to new moms and hopefully, so it's not just regret moms, it's new moms. So maybe that be part of the title. Or I'm like thinking out loud as like
Yeah,
new moms
yeah.
and regret moms or something, new moms to regret moms talk to new moms. Yeah. Anyways, but yeah, I so much appreciate your candidness and your authenticity and your willingness to to say this out loud. And I'll say to you that you were lied to. We were all lied to, and that it's not your fault. It's a societal disease that perpetuates in ignorance, which you said many times, and not only that, but denial. because people don't even know what it is. And you spoke of this specifically, is that you didn't know what it was until recently. You saw a medical um, training circumcision with, with a prop, not the actual blood and the screaming that took me forever to sit through one of those videos. It's yeah, it's horrendous. So what I'll open this to you. What would you like to add?
Well, I would like to add this, that I want to say thank you to you because giving me this opportunity, opening my eyes. I mean, harm was caused to my son, and I would never, I mean, if somebody were to say, I'm going to cut your child right here, I'd be like, no, you're not. You're going to touch my kid. And yet that's what happened, right? So it's kind of crazy. But so I was, and being, I guess I do feel stupid. I know you were very well and ignorant, kind of like whatever, but coming at it like this. But you were very so coming into the interview. I was a little nervous, and you wonder how other people are going to perceive you, meaning like the judgment. But I can't worry about any of that. That's not that. That's whatever. But you created a container for me to feel safe and be completely honest and just tell you my story and allow me to just be, this is what happened. However it may appear, this is exactly what happened. So I feel very like you have not clearly, but you have not shamed me. You have not ridiculed me. You have not put me in any spot where I feel actually you did the complete opposite. Because there is that little like, ooh, so that's, I hope I'm making sense here.
Yeah.
It feels, you were very open. I felt very open and able to, just kind of be honest. And so you were very supportive in holding this and holding my story. So I appreciate that. So why I'm saying this is probably if anyone else, I feel like this is excellent for me and excellent for others to hear. And so you having conversations like this seems really important. That's how we connect. So anyone looking to want to share with you, I'm just letting that know that I feel very supportive and not, judged in any way. So it's safe. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That makes me feel good that you felt that the container of safety to be able to open up. And I think I speak for both Brooke and I that if you are pregnant or know someone who is pregnant and they call it routine, but no one called it irreversible. Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you, Dwayne. I
Believe it
appreciate
or
it.
not, it's been like almost like right at an hour almost. And
Wow, really?
yeah, yeah,
Perfect.
that was a lot.
It's
So
beautiful.
we can take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, it's the same as going on tour that if I saved one, it was worth it.
Absolutely. I agree.
Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you, Dwayne.